Good morning, fellow Bitcoiners. I hope you had a fun 4th of July. I am happy to have Gen Z BTC here with me today. He is a fun and hopeful guy. He has lots of energy. He is very well spoken. He is a Bitcoin only educator who is documenting his journey through Bitcoin. And as a Gen Z finance enthusiast, he is continually teaching the youth, the future upcoming generations, about the future of money and leading the next generation to a better world. We know how Bitcoin can do that. Being a great communicator, last fall he spoke at BTC in DC, the conference there at the Kennedy Center in Washington, DC. The pervasive message in his content is stack sats or die trying, and we'll talk about the new American dream. Gen Z BTC, how was your 4th of July?
It was amazing. It was amazing. A couple fireworks were popped off. All of our fingers are still here. So I said
Yeah.
that was successful. And again, good morning, bro. Welcome, everybody to the stream.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. I know the 4th of July, I mean, as a kid, I was joking with a buddy yesterday about how just inherently we kids love fire. They love waving a stick on fire in the air and making smoke, and then graduating to playing with fireworks. And then there's adults that are kids at heart on the 4th of July, losing their hearing or losing fingers on the 4th of July. So we get a little crazy with it where we are. But anyway, hope y'all were not losing any fingers last night. Uh, I I watched I wasn't able to go to BTC in DC, but you got to be on stage. You were on a panel about the new American dream. Lots of good discussion there. I saw you with Halston and others that I know there. What a fun opportunity to be invited on that on stage. Were you nervous at all?
No, no, that was exciting. I got very lucky. Someone reached out. They happened to see my content. They wanted me to be there. And if anything, I was honestly a little upset that there weren't more people there,
Hmm.
but it was really great. I love talking in front of large audiences, especially when it's something so important as Bitcoin, right? Something I'm so passionate about. So that was a great opportunity. Super thankful to those guys over there in DC, and I want to go back. I definitely want to go back.
Yeah, just tossing up the stage here real quick. You can find BTC and DC on X, BTC and DC underscore there. I hadn't their website was down last I just checked a couple days ago. Maybe it's back up, but have you heard of plans for 2026 at all? Any rumblings of what's coming next? I'm glad they're doing it in DC. I mean, there's always the lobbying aspect, the politics, the money, but it's important as all this goes on in the regulatory governance world. Have you heard of anything coming up about that?
Not quite yet, but I do know that the organizers were going to run it back this year, right? So
Hmm.
we should hear something pretty soon if they're planning on doing it in October towards the end of the year. I definitely need to start pumping out more content, right? So this is my resurgence, It's part of why I wasn't speaking at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, right? I just
Uh-huh.
hadn't uploaded in a little bit. So it's about staying consistent, keeping up with the news and stuff like that so that I can be part of these events.
Yeah, I was in Vegas this past spring. It's always, the big one. And I'm curious what your sense is being familiar with Vegas, the vibe of it. Various conferences I go to, many are smaller or different sort of angles on the signal, who presents, who's there. They're all great. I just tell people, hey, if you haven't been to a conference, you're kind of like, no, I can watch these online, or I get it. There is something unique to actually being there in person and feeling it, taking it in, networking, seeing people that you saw online in person. Vegas is the big one, of course, and I loved it. Saw you there briefly, and yeah, takeaways from Vegas. It's the easy and convenient one for you to go to. Overall takeaway about Vegas as compared to what it was like in DC.
So the DC conference was definitely a lot smaller, right? It
Hmm.
was a more intimate type of conference,
Hmm.
and it gave you more time to really try to find the speakers afterwards and speak with them, get with them. I got to speak with extremely legendary people for a prolonged period of time because there just weren't that many people there, right? I took clips and little video recordings of Samson Mao, Adam Back, Giacomo Zucco. I missed Michael Saylor, unfortunately, but I got to talk with, Pierre Rochard and Lawrence Lepard and all these different legendary people. It was truly insane. Jeff Booth,
Yeah.
Adam Back. Again, it was crazy. Compared to Vegas, Vegas, for better or worse, right, is a massive conference. There's a lot of people. It's kind of
Mhm.
hard to catch individual guys throughout all the clutter and the madness and the noise and stuff like that. I did run into still a lot of amazing Bitcoiners. Um, but one thing I will say about the vibe is that DC was undeniably a Bitcoin conference, whereas
Good.
the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, could have been misconstrued as a crypto conference, certainly,
Right.
right? There's a lot of kids wearing XRP shirts and all this other stuff. And I'm like, are you lost, little bro? Like, do you need help? But you know,
The shitcoin conference is over there. uh,
yeah, I did find that interesting. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, um, maybe it's still a positive that they're at the Bitcoin conference. Maybe they're trying to broaden their horizon or deepen their knowledge, or they understand that Bitcoin is the number one, and potentially they still believe in some of the, shit coins or whatever it might be. But either way, I just found that interesting.
yeah, I mean, the hallways of DC, it just runs on money and lobbying. I mean, it's just the nature of some of that business for sure. So, the bills and things that are passed and acted, they'll often in our heads we can see where Bitcoin fits in there or what's really going to be a foundation in these bills that say crypto or cryptocurrency or digital assets and all that stuff. How it all plays out, pans out. On one hand, I mean, I don't love the nature of the sausage making politics stuff that goes on that way. At the same time, it's better to have the discussions occur in any way we can and get the legislation at least not uh, anti all of it, knowing that Bitcoin will, as it proves itself out and as it just functions, altcoin's going to altcoin and they're going to be there. But over time, I feel good and confident in the just the law of physics and the nature of markets and how Bitcoin works. You've made a good point in the past and before distinguishing Bitcoin from crypto, the way people think of it, and tossing up here a little meme that years ago I came across this because when I was first learning about it, and we all go through as we're learning, you start somewhere and you get excited about all the potential ideas, the pumponomics, as you've mentioned, the pumponomics versus learning the fundamental of it. Whereas Bitcoin really stands separate from fiat, and so much of crypto really is just fiat game. So that's an important distinction to make. And I just hope that the hollowed hulls of regulatory politician world that they come to figure this out at some point. Do you think they figure it out or are figuring it out?
I think that they are figuring it out, right? And I think that is mostly in part due to great organizations like the Bitcoin Policy Institute. I talked with
Hmm.
a lot of those guys actually in Vegas, so they're super amazing, and they're doing great work. I hope to, somehow work alongside them more in the near future. But they are on that mission of separating crypto from Bitcoin and making sure that Bitcoin policy is something that stays enacted through multiple different administrations, no matter what side of the fence that they're on. Even if
Hmm.
crypto is attacked, Bitcoin will be bolstered regardless of who's seated in power, right? So those guys are doing a great job. And I think another part of it is Bitcoin kind of does a lot of its own marketing, right? So when you see that everything else is down against Bitcoin, right? That's part of the marketing, right? Why Bitcoin is a little bit
Uh-huh.
different. When you look at the fact that the fundamentals are so much different compared to all other cryptos, right? Like there is no CEO, there's no founder, and the only crypto that is truly a commodity, right, which is just an asset without an issuer, is Bitcoin, right? Some people argue that, well, Satoshi was the issuer, but that's not true, right? Bitcoin was released to the world by an anonymous group, and Satoshi, being the first person who mined it, was only so that the network could be defended, right? There was no pre-mine. It was actually an
Right.
ethical distribution, unlike pretty much something like Ethereum, which had a foundation, insiders, and a pre-mine, right? VC
Right.
investors who had to get paid. When you look at something like Bitcoin, anybody could have started mining when the software was released. But Satoshi started mining in the early 2009s, so that way the network could be defended, right? That's the only reason why he had so many
Yeah.
Bitcoin to begin with.
Yeah, nodes were miners, and he was just simply getting the network to be functioning and as quickly and early as he could, getting others to participate and get to mining on it as well. And it's the most ethical gift given away way that you could do it compared to, people that love the tech or the concept behind things like Ripple and these other things. And they're so owned and issued and managed, and the thought process of people that get into government or politics or navigate that world, I think, and in finance, very typically you're just always looking for, okay, well, what are the channels of power? How do I navigate managing new ideas, new things, the power involved in these things? Who is that person? Who do I lobby? How do we manage or control or whatever? It's very much about having hands-on control and fingers on the buttons about it all, pulling levers. And with Bitcoin, it's just like you can't just do that. I mean, you can play games on and around it, but at the base layer, it just follows fixed rules. So you're not gaming that. So it's changing TradFi and systems generally with a new paradigm of thought process about how this stuff can work and how you can't screw with it. So there's going to be like what I see coming. I've talked with this with other friends and stuff in the space, but sort of a Bitcoin forces kind of a great realignment to traditional systems that are used to having their own leverages over things. And with Bitcoin, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is a new a new thing that we can't own other than stack sats or die trying. Tell me about how you came up with stack sats or die trying. That's been your motto for a lot of your videos throughout your time.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of something that was like catchy, kind of like timeless, and
Mhm.
somehow, some way, I stole 50 cents, right? Get rich or die trying, which is still
Mm.
iconic. People still
Mhm.
say that, right? They'll say that forever.
Right.
So if we stack sats or die trying, that will also be iconic, and they'll also say that forever, right? So I think that was the only inspiration that I could pull from. 50 cents, get rich or die trying.
Yeah, it's like the non-fiat version of that. Iconic, but and the thing about stacking sats, it's not like uh, if you imagine a Bitcoin standard, say, or whatever, it's not like, oh, get rich, like I'm going to get my fiat. Stacking sats is a shift in if we have savings technology and if our money isn't debased and devalued, as you contribute to the world and produce things and get value for value, and you have extra that you put away, instead of having to invest and hustle and play games, you can just stack and sit on it, adjust your time preference, and it changes your life. So different frame on the hustle. Different. It's not the same hustle exactly, but you're uh, even as you're energized to produce value and do things in the world. Brings me to uh, the concept of the American dream. So DC, BTC and DC, Washington DC. The panel you were on was about the new American dream, and what strikes me, you're very well spoken. you present the confidence. You were in your suit and your orange tie, and you look sharp. And so as you talked about it, you got applause when you were making some strong, good sharp points, and you'd get applause from the audience. That was really cool. And I guess I might say, could the new future American dream, instead of like trying to get a house, which is really to get a mortgage, which is really to get in debt, maybe the new American dream it could range from being a whole coiner to at some point being a point one Bitcoiner. Maybe the new American dream is stacking good sats as you produce value. What might you say the new American dream is?
Yes. Before we talk about the American dream, I just do
Uh-huh.
want to touch back on the idea of the get rich or die trying and the hustle, the idea of the hustle.
Oh yeah, sure.
Um, yeah, no, the hustle is still in essence similar, but the big difference is that on a Bitcoin standard, the hustle actually stacks up, right? Like the value is actually saved.
Yeah.
So, savers are punished in a fiat standard because their currency is being debased, meaning that their time value of money is being minimized. So when you think about the phrase that time is money, which is true, right? Because it takes time in order to create any sort of value, right? Cannot be created instantly. Um, you have to put in a certain amount of hours of work, whether that's you being an entrepreneur, you're a salesperson, you are an employee hourly somewhere. That's the most literal version of time is money. And when your money is being diluted, your time is actually being stolen from you, right?
Right.
So when you try to get rich or die trying, the part of the problem is that the goalpost is getting further away from you as you're running harder on this hamster wheel or this treadmill, compared to something like Bitcoin, where when you're stacking sats or die trying, again, the mindset shift is different. That is true. But part of that is because you understand that your savings technology is actually maintaining its value. It's not a leaky battery. Like the energy is not leaking out of that system.
Right.
It's actually helping you to get towards where you need to be to achieve your goal, right? It's not fighting against you. These are tailwinds as compared to headwinds on a fiat standard, right?
Yeah, so
Um,
like when I use the word hustle, I guess under fiat, it can have that negative connotation, like it's a melting ice cube, more money, more problems. Got to hustle to just simply keep up, versus a good, healthy, proper, motivated hustle where people like yourself, you work hard, you create value. You do want to get ahead as you work hard and lean in and grind at times. But yeah, when you're stacking sats, there's that peace of mind of, yeah, the savings that you are incentivized positively versus almost like just trying to keep up, or or even get into debt to keep up. It's an important distinction, I think, the a good based Bitcoin frame about it versus a fiat hustle, if you will. So then that realigns also a concept around the American dream. So instead of like, okay, it's good to have a good work ethic, hustle, if you say, um, work hard, and yet have the right, say, time preference and planning around that, reframing the American dream itself. Um, so the American dream being a different uh, game, a value for value creation, production, just go do things perhaps. And uh, I think it's good for people to have goals in terms of stacking. I think I have um, I've seen people realize we've been in like this bear market for a while now, kind of a winter season and fiat number of Bitcoin with the price and stuff. Now these bear markets are over, when you zoom out, they're like shorter and shallower than they have been in the past. But you feel it when you look at the price. It's also been a great opportunity to feel like, oh, if you thought, oh, Bitcoin's running away from us in price, and I'll never be a whole coiner, or I can't stack the way I wanted to. It's been a great opportunity lately, and maybe we're approaching a bottom, but it's kind of like, hey, if you kind of still get it, if you're willing to learn and or start, it's a great time now to pursue that dream of a decent stack for yourself while you still can under 100,000, under a million, whatever. It's been a good time to refocus on your conviction, perhaps, or learn and stay humble and stack sats. You're right.
No, 100%. So this is where I'll go on my long rant, right? I'll talk about the American dream, and then I'll talk about Bitcoin bear markets and how they're actually amazing, right?
Yeah.
So to be short about the American dream portion, the classic idea is this thought of, going to school, graduating, making money from your job that you went to college for, being able to afford a home, maybe a new car, your dog, your pet, and some kids. Maybe even have the wife at home if you're really really lucky, right? In fact, that was kind of the standard. If you go back, maybe even 50 years, that was pretty standard.
The
Single
game
income
of life.
household.
Go
Yep,
around the
yep.
board and collect your kids and your wife and your job and
Yes, there was like a track. There was a
yeah,
pretty much set track that someone could stay on, and that seems like it's not the case anymore, right? The track is much different. The game is not the same, and it's because the money is worse, right?
right.
There's not anything else. Well, not that's not true. There are material changes that have happened to the culture, to society, to the world, right? But the invisible change that most people don't notice is the fact that your dollar just sucks now. All right. It used to be
Mhm,
good. It used to be backed by gold. It used to have a set value, but now it is fiat, right? It is money by decree. And that
mhm,
value is set by the government. And then they can make more of that money whenever they want. One of the properties of money is scarcity. So if you can print money out of thin air, you are creating value instantly. And going back to what we talked about, it takes time to create value, it takes proof of work to create value. And that's why Bitcoin is so valuable. So the transformation of the American dream is the ability to, do what you want to do when you want to do it. If you want to buy a house, if you want to buy the new car, you want to have optionality, right? That's what true freedom is. And Bitcoin gives you optionality back when it feels like you have no options, right? When you feel like you've been kind of cornered or put into a position where you're dealt a bad hand, right?
mm,
At the end of the day, the boomers had their opportunity, which was to buy houses and rental properties and stocks for very cheap, right? And over time, those were great investments, and that's why they have so much wealth now. But the truth is, every generation has their opportunity, and Bitcoin is our opportunity. And they'll say it's not fair, and the truth is, yeah, it won't be, right? The life is not fair. But in 20 years, they'll say it's not fair that you were able to buy Bitcoin for 5 digits. You got to buy it for 58,000. Oh, you're so lucky. Now that
right.
part is true and not true, right? Yes, you are lucky to understand Bitcoin now because you were born at this
Mhm,
time and you had the education at this time, right? That is lucky. But there's nothing lucky about studying hard, understanding what you own, listening to your own conviction, understanding that even though the masses think that you're an idiot, 99% of the world doesn't get it. You are the one who actually gets it. So that's not luck. That is just being able to read and think.
right. Yeah, I mean, I feel lucky in the sense that we are all so lucky to be here now in this epoch kind of pivot point in all of the span of humanity where Bitcoin occurred, and I was here to by just simply paying attention and being curious, come across it and then recognize it and be willing to learn and then share it with others. You've said that OPSEC is a thing. People are all into being having privacy and all that stuff, but it's good to simply be the Bitcoin guy. Like there's no shame, and actually, kind of think of BTC cousin makes this gun called Fug'em. When you get basically when you get people, friends, family, coworkers, and you might get a variety of responses, everything from like, oh, okay, well that's nice, to eye rolls, to oh, how are you coins? You still doing that? And just and through ups and downs, it's funny how it can change when fiat's up, fiat's down, all the things. But to just be the Bitcoin guy, have that conviction without any kind of shame about it, like being reasonably humble, but also just like, yeah, I'm the Bitcoin guy, knowing that in the future as well, it's not like we say, oh yeah, he's the internet guy. Um, he was oh, are you still doing the internet? In the future, it'll be like, Bitcoin will be like, it's just the internet of money. Like it's just what runs. So it'll sound funny, I think, in hindsight, someday in the future, that you can proudly now be the Bitcoin guy. And in the future, as you've helped orange pill people, it's not going to be weird. It'll just be like, oh, you were just paying attention. So uh, you share that energy when you make your talks. Was it hard to start the podcast in terms of courage and conviction to be a Bitcoin guy and then deciding, I'm going to do a thing, I'm going to make this, I'm going to click record and start making the things and put myself out there? Did it take a little courage for you to start?
Um, I wouldn't say so. No, it wasn't anything too scary or hard to do. I think some of my first videos, I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna record in my car like some of these guys do. And then from there, it went to me writing on a blackboard, and I just haven't looked back. I just need to be a little more consistent. That's all. And then to talk about the previous topic about the bear markets, right? And
Mhm.
how people, double down on their conviction. The only reason I understand Bitcoin is because of the last bear market, right? I somehow like timed the bottom. I got very lucky because when it was 16K, I thought,
Yeah.
okay, if it goes to 64K, which it's already done, it was 69, that's a 4x, right? So I should probably just buy Bitcoin again, right? I should just start studying Bitcoin again. Because my first buy like ever was like 2017. Then I went way harder during like the GameStop AMC mania Wall Street
Oh
bets time,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then COVID stimulus check, put my stimulus check into it, right? And all these different things. So I lost most of my Bitcoin because I had it on an exchange. I didn't know what self-custody was. And
Oh yeah.
then again, the bear market comes after FTX collapses. I
So you
just
you
so
lost it
happened.
from the exchange.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh damn.
Again, I didn't know what self-custody was, so
Mhm.
I was not a Bitcoiner. I was just someone who held Bitcoin, right? I didn't study it. I didn't know how it worked. I just knew that the number went up. I thought it was just like everything else. But again, 2022, depths of the bear market, $16,000. I start buying again. Truly ridiculous. The only time I've ever timed anything right, right?
Good for
And
you, man. Nice.
Yeah, no, that was truly ridiculous. That was incredible, and it was pure luck. And my mindset was just like, okay, if it goes to 64, that's a 4x. So I was still kind of in that fiat mindset. That's the only reason why I started researching and studying and watching YouTube videos, and it was just incredible, right? It just
Yeah.
made so much sense. And bear markets like this are, if you still want to have a lot of fiat, you can get a lot of fiat by buying Bitcoin here, right? Buying at during bear markets, right?
Yeah.
But this is really a great time to understand that this is freedom technology, right? And that it's more valuable than the fiat that it's denominated in on your exchange.
Yeah, and over the years, and you can see it in the discussion, the online community discussions and stuff. But going to conferences, for example, when the price is up and just rising, and you see a lot of people that they're really into Bitcoin, and sometimes those reasons are quite number go up. And so then when you go to, like, more recently, I've been to some conferences where the people that are going to these conferences through this season, the deeper ethos, the values, the conviction is there. And for those that are hodling, are in it for the right reasons long term, we've all had that moment of reconciling why we're doing this in our path of learning. It's easy, different reasons why you start and why you might stay for a while. And you're watching the price and then you're learning about it. And then when you're riding it through a fiat bear season, you stop and have to think about, oh, okay, how does this actually work? Why am I in this? What is money? And there's a good question there. What is money? Also, the nature of, the linguistics of our money we use every day, the US dollar, the Federal Reserve, and that whole system. As you learn more about all that too, it's a good time. It's healthy for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin community. It's like, step back, learn better, uh, good time preference stuff, and then knowing that this stuff, the inevitable outcomes, I guess you might say, I feel good and very hopeful, bullish for the future. I when that price hit, like you said, 16,000 or so, I was basically DCAing, and I gifted some of my family little, small amounts for Christmas that year later. It was about 20,000 or so. And I gave family a little bit of Bitcoin as like a gift. Um, Not just that, but like as partially educational, part of it is me being excited about it. And yeah, that was like what, 4 years ago. Um, so for people to say, "Oh man, it's crashed down to 60," I'm like, okay, do you remember? Say it's some family. Do you remember a few years ago when I gave you a little Bitcoin just for a fun, for a gift, for education? Do you happen to remember what the price was then? Not that long ago. Like it was like 20,000. So to say it's crashed to 60, I'm like, I'm fine. I'm still here. It's all good. So just hold it and keep learning. But yeah, zooming out is people can struggle with sometimes. But there is a question about that. What is money? And how Bitcoin is different. People, so there are folks like Jack Dorsey, Jeff Booth, they will, and many others, they'll be like, it's important that we use Bitcoin as money, a medium of exchange. We can use this stuff, use those blocks. We can still do this on the base layer. Largely, a lot of people treat it as a store of value. And I mean, it's natural, but you stack, you kind of sit on it and hold as you learn. And then, yeah, you can use it for transactions. Um, how do you see Bitcoin fitting in terms of being a money or the money versus, say, like strategy is treating it very much like a core preserve capital, just capital to sit on and then, uh, create things on top of. How might you frame Bitcoin in terms of what is money? And we might get into kind of like what is strategy doing? What do you think about what strategy and Sailor are all talking about?
Yes. So everyone's got their opinions on Bitcoin, what it can be, what it should be. And the truth is, Bitcoin is multiple things at once. It's a very interesting network. It's very powerful, and it's very much like the internet, right? Some people will say, well, the internet is for cat videos. It's like, no, the internet is for uploading PDFs, right? And no, the internet's actually for tutorials on how to fix stuff, right? But none of those things are true, but they're all true at the same time. So the evolution of money typically is that it starts as store of value, then medium of exchange once it's proved that it can store value, and then you start using it as a unit of account once you use it as a medium of exchange, right? But that's going to take a very long time. That's not going to happen in 10 years. It's going to happen in multiple decades. It takes a very long time for that to happen.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I do believe that Bitcoin has to be a medium of exchange in order for it to take that next step as unit of account and then truly succeed and permeate throughout the entire world. I think that strategy is not incorrect by saying that it is capital and it's a great store of value. And They see Bitcoin being money as something that happens on higher layers.
Right.
And we'll have to see how the world actually ends up shaking out. But yes, you can transact on the base layer, right? You can utilize Lightning. You can utilize things that are built on top of Lightning. Jack Dorsey's using his platform and his business to allow multiple companies to start accepting Bitcoin by, using, just tap to page, making it super
Yeah, those
easy and
payment rails.
frictionless.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, but it's just a little hard to say. But I would definitely say that over anything, Bitcoin is money. It is not a storage system for people to upload their files. It is not
Mhm.
just capital, right? It's not just a store of value. These are just attributes of good money, right? So Bitcoin at the end of the day is money. You can do that on the base layer if you want to, right? But we'll continue to make more efficient ways to transact with Bitcoin, right? And Lightning is one of those great examples of a layer two.
Exactly. Yeah, and so many people, their interface with Bitcoin is going to be on the higher layers. Of course, layer twos and the layer threes and apps and as the tech evolves and makes it more accessible and safe and secure for people, they may not even know they're using Bitcoin even as they're doing stuff with it, like with Square and those payments. But Bitcoin will become integrated with things, and then people using Bitcoin will be able to just use it very easily. Now, are they waiting for a block to validate and all that? No, they're gonna be using layers. And then when we use the word money, people will say money, and there's different layers to what money is. So there's the certainly the medium of exchange to it. You know, in honor of Satoshi, I got the white paper up here, and strategy isn't utilizing Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. They are stacking it and then creating their own monetary layers on that. um, but it, I don't. I just personally, I accumulate Bitcoin, and I like to have the original vision of Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. As long as we can uh, take self custody, run a node, and transact with it, we still have that freedom. And then with Sailor and others using it in a different way and all that, I don't judge it. I think it's inevitable. I don't think it hurts Bitcoin. If anything, it's growing roots into TradFi and governance aspects where Bitcoin is just simply integrating with a legacy system. And then that legacy system, I think, is going to have to shift as well to play by some new rules and rules that work better. So I think it's all good, but people will say Bitcoin's money. And both Sailor can say Bitcoin's money, and you and I can say Bitcoin's money. And we're kind of sometimes talking about like different aspects of money because of the features of what money can be as a medium of exchange or a store of value, and then a unit of account and all those things. So it is quite multifaceted. Now, I do want to get to and focus on the fact that your channel and your message is very tuned into Gen Z and younger generations, people coming into Bitcoin, maybe learning about it for the first time. And I've got young kids, various ages, and it can be easy and natural to have a someone younger feel like, well, sort of like I'm Gen X, and you can say, oh, well, the boomers got there in real estate and others, or older generations like got theirs, or when money was better, or had time in a different game, and things are just getting more diluted. So it can be easy for, say, Gen Z to have a doomer mindset about finance, savings, investment, the hustle. I can see Gen Z fall. Well, I've had Nikki with the Orange Peel Pod has mentioned. Love her. She's doing great. I saw her at conferences in Prague recently. She was in Prague. Uh, she has noticed how younger generations can fall for traps of like gambling or sports gambling or quick trading and altcoins and all that stuff because they're kind of wanting to catch up and hustle to make up for lost time or diluted money. And you are trying to do good education for youth, Gen Z, about Bitcoin for good fundamentals. Tell me about that motivation and where you see Gen Z's mindset these days.
Yeah, shout out to Nikki, for sure. Orange Pill Podcast.
Yeah,
Shout out to all the Gen Zers in Bitcoin, right? All the Gen Z content creators. But the reason why,
Halston. Yeah.
yep, Halston, yep, Madison,
Mhm.
all those girls. Um, but the reason why, I make Gen Z Bitcoin content, I mean, I'm a Gen Zer. It only makes sense. And in terms of, young people, yeah, that we're not taught, this is kind of true for everyone, but, we're not taught in the US like how to manage our debt or, really anything about finances, anything about equities, anything about economics. It is very, very skimmed over in the American curriculum. And that's by design, honestly. School is really just meant to get you ready for work. Being able to punch in at a certain time, leave at a certain time, go to lunch at a certain time, go to the bathroom at a certain time, if you ask for permission, whatever, right? So that's the typical job layout in most places, right? Sit still for your 8 hours and then get ready to leave. So there's that, right?
Yeah.
It's not exactly the most fruitful education typically when you're talking about the public school system, but because no one teaches us these things, I want to try educating people on a range of topics. So I'm going to try expanding my YouTube channel to talk about personal finance in general, while also tying Bitcoin into that because Bitcoin is a part of your personal finance and it can help to strengthen and bolster your ability to keep your finances under control, right? As long as you manage it the right way, right? Bitcoin is
Mhm.
very volatile, right? But volatility is not risk. And there are certain places where Bitcoin makes a lot of sense to have in your portfolio, right? Depending on who you are, what your goals are, it might make sense to own something like MSTR or something like Stretch. But the real innovation is Bitcoin and cold storage, and everyone should hold some of that before they do anything else, right?
Right.
To do that out of order doesn't really make sense. Perhaps that's too much risk being taken on, right? If you want to minimize risk, you buy Bitcoin and cold storage. That's how you minimize risk.
Yeah. So starting with Bitcoin, having that foundation down, and then as you learn, and say you, I don't know if you'd call it diversify or evaluate, say you don't mind the counterparty risk, you like what strategy and other companies are doing, you might have some exposure to the development value add that companies are giving to the space. Yeah, from there you can look at the strategy stuff and other things. But if you don't have that base principle down, then you're what you can get caught up into is kind of like, like stock gambling or the trading aspect of it all, buy and sell and time it and try to outthink the market and not get rug pulled or whatever else. But I love that value. I'll bring to screen here your uh, let's see here. Yes, here's your YouTube channel. So on YouTube at Gen Z BTC, you have a lot of great videos here, and you do um, you make animations and a lot of good just education, and they're short, they're relatively short, so you can get a good package punch topic by topic and learn on from your channel about Bitcoin and financial fundamentals and understanding the whole landscape. Um, I love the diversity of content you've made, and now you're going to be making some more stuff again, uh, uh, revitalizing the content that's to come. I'm excited to hear about. There's so much going on in the world of Bitcoin. I guess there are. I don't. We don't have to get into the contentious topics, but there's a lot simmering and rumbling in Bitcoin that catch eyeballs. I'm kind of curious to see what comes in August with the node discussions going on. To be honest, I don't know what to expect in some of that. I have my personal convictions and opinions about it, and at the same time, I want what's good for Bitcoin. So there's a lot of content that can be covered in terms of things that strategy is doing versus just being based on Bitcoin. What node you might run. I just say, hey, just run a node. We need more nodes out there in the world. We probably wouldn't have these same arguments if there were just 100,000 or a million nodes versus say 20,000, and we're trying to keep this network decentralized and secure. Um, Thoughts on the spicy topics going on in Bitcoin these days without having to get uh, too heated about it, but I'm good for anything you might want to say about that stuff.
No, for sure. Top two most controversial are, Sailor is ruining Bitcoin and that BIP 110 is extremely contentious. I will say that Sailor is great for Bitcoin. Strategy is great for Bitcoin. Stretch is going to be a great product. It will succeed. It's, not depegged. It's just not at par, right? This is not a stable
Sure.
coin. Um, Strategy is going to get to a million Bitcoin probably this year. That's during a bear market, by the way. And
Right. What a
they
time for him
will
to stack.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and again, they will far exceed their all-time high, extremely easily, by the way. And the same with Bitcoin, right? It's kind of hard to have your company fail and go under when you have the most of the apex asset in the world.
Absolutely.
So I find that to be not controversial personally, but there are a lot of legendary people like Matthew Kratter, Bitcoin University,
I
and
like him. Yeah.
Parker Lewis, the
Uh-huh.
author of Gradually Then Suddenly, right? These guys are definitely smarter than I am, right? They've been around a little bit longer than I have, and they know a thing or two about equities, corporate treasury strategies, stuff like that. Um, but despite all their great knowledge, they're just uh, they're just wrong. They just misunderstand a few things. I'm not sure how that's possible, how some people who are so much smarter than me can misunderstand stuff, but that happens, right? So it's nothing against them. I think it becomes a problem when people start blocking people and saying, oh, you're paid out by this person, or you're bought out, or you're being paid to shill, or whatever. I think that's cope, right? That's cope. And I think that, it's just not a good look. And
Yeah.
truthfully, I think that Crater will keep his videos up, but he probably will wish he will have deleted many of them because
Mm.
they're just incorrect, right? Strategy will completely destroy its previous all-time high. That's almost self-evident, right?
Yeah.
It's just like Bitcoin, right? Like it's almost self-evident that Bitcoin will destroy its previous all-time high.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost self-evident that Stretch will peg back to $100, right? And that will generate billions. It will generate hundreds of billions of dollars for them to buy Bitcoin this decade, right? I have screenshots from people I'm taking bets. I've put Bitcoin on the line saying that by 2030, right? Stretch will not be gone. Some people are saying, "Oh, Stretch will be retired by 2030. They'll just retire the instrument. They're not going to do it anymore." And
Uh-huh.
that's just not going to happen, right? Some people talking about, oh, there's a death spiral with strategy. It's going to also not happening. So
Right.
again, it is somewhat complicated. When you think about something like Bitcoin, it's simple to us, but it's kind of complicated. And then to take something like that and then talk about strategy, you're adding another layer of complexity. Because strategy is pretty complicated if you really get into the weeds of how they run their balance sheet and whatnot. Um,
Mm.
to us, maybe it's simple, but from the outside looking in, it's not that simple. And if you've ever
Hmm.
tried to explain Bitcoin to someone, try explaining strategy to someone. You would understand why
Yeah.
it might be a bit of a challenge, right? So is that. That's my controversial thing, that strategy will be extremely successful. It'll be a screaming success, right? And it'll be so obvious after it's already over. And then
Hmm.
about the storage and the data on Bitcoin, I am not a technical person, right? I did read the Bitcoin code. I don't know how to read code, so I just copy
Uh,
pasted
yeah.
the system through. I copy pasted like lines at a time, and I put it through AI, and I was like, explain what this means, right? And I really did that for the whole thing.
Wow.
It's actually not a lot of code apparently, and if I remember correctly, I believe Bitcoin was coded in C plus plus. I could be
Yep.
wrong there. Again, it was a
Yep.
long time ago.
Yep. C
Um,
plus plus.
Anyways, right? There are a couple like super iconic lines of code there, like the lines of code that talk about the halving, when the halving is supposed to trigger, right? I believe it's 210,000 blocks. Yeah,
Hmm.
something like that. After that time, that's when the halving is supposed to take place. And there's all
Hmm.
these really interesting and super cool equations that are inside of the Bitcoin code base. And it's simple and it's beautiful and it works very, very well. Um, Again, I'm not technical. I don't really know. But I've listened to many arguments and debates and podcasts and talks and tweets and people crying and blocking other people and making claims that may or may not be true. But as it stands now, I think that Bitcoin knots and 110, there it is. Yes, that's an
The
iconic
iconic
equation.
formula of the issuance schedule.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes, super
Yeah.
iconic.
Yep.
Um, But when it comes to BIP 110 and knots and Bitcoin being a data storage system and trying to fight spam, as I understand it, BIP 110 does not stop spam. It's
Sure.
just meant to signal that we don't want spammers here. And instead of leaving the door open, we're trying to close the door, even though spam will persist in some
Sure.
ways, right? So that is how I understand it. Some
Mhm.
people will say, well, knots and BIP 110 is useless. Therefore, there's no point in implementing this. There's no consensus for this.
Mm.
Whereas the people who are trying to implement this are more so talking about how this is a indication that nodes still run the network and nodes still set the rules. And even if they are a minority, similar to what happened during the block size wars, right? Small blockers
Right.
were actually the minority. You're still able to win and make sure that the miners are subservient to node runners, which helps the network to stay decentralized. So it's an
Yep.
ideological battle, I think, more than anything. And perhaps on the technical side, there won't be too many super major changes or anything like that, right? People will still find a way to send in their little ordinals or crap coins or garbage, right? But I just find it interesting that a lot of Ethereum people are in support of not activating BIP 110. I've seen that a lot. For something that's not going to activate and that's useless and worthless, there is a lot of people pushing back against 110. I think there's a lot of interesting people who are on the side of 110. These people
Uh-huh.
can be wrong, right? Great example, Matthew Crowder. Matthew Crowder's literally dead wrong about MSTR. Like he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, he
I don't
trolls
know.
sailors constantly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I find that interesting. Like he's literally just wrong.
Yeah.
So perhaps he's truly wrong again on BIP 110. Perhaps he's completely wrong. But I think that this is actually correct. I believe that BIP 110. Um, it's kind of hard to say. We really do need like a big miner or a mining pool to activate or to signal for it in order for it to
Uh-huh.
actually work. But we'll see what actually happens. But I'll say that I'm on the BIP 110 side, which is why I have it in my Twitter handle.
Yeah, I saw that, and my personal ethics agree with, okay, we can't stop all spam, but it's worth signaling in Bitcoin that we're willing to have a fence up as long as it doesn't disrupt how the protocol and network works and the strength of Bitcoin itself, big picture. And it's important to, as much as I mean, Matthew Crowder over the years has helped keep me orange pilled as I've learned and learned from him for years. And then he'd go very strong on things about strategy, things about BIP 110 and directions where it's good that I still very much respect some of these voices in the space. It's also important to sometimes you got to slay your heroes in a way that, you know, I love and respect these people in the space, but I'm not religious about it. We're like, well, whatever he said, I'm always kind of taking in different information from different places. I'm really curious to see what plays out with this BIP 110 come about August 8th, I think. Waiting to see what miners signal for it or how. Um, it's different in a way from the block size wars. I didn't really come across Bitcoin hard until after that had all been settled out. But yeah, the nodes versus the miners and who is helping steer what direction we take with this, where what the protocol's doing with this. Um, I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. I think Bitcoin remains strong and resilient. I hate to see any kind of chain split or that we lose good Bitcoiners over it. If good solid folks like Crater um, say things don't work out the way they ideally like. I hate to have good voices and convicted folks in the space leave us because they don't like Bitcoin anymore. Because I just think we don't know, kind of like with strategy, it's all very complicated. And playing this out long term, I don't always know what's best. I have my personal convictions, my personal views on what I'd like to see in Bitcoin, but I hate to have divisiveness. I call this podcast Bitcoiners United because even with these disagreements that we may argue about and all that, there's ad hominems and people attack each other. And I don't like all that. But what we agree on is so much more than what we may disagree or argue about. So I don't want these issues to split us or make Bitcoin weaker. How it plays out, I don't know what to expect, to be honest. But I like UTXOs to be for monetary transactions. Quite frankly, Asanoa, he made Bitcoin Magazine. He's a Bitcoin artist. He is really collecting a good community around Bitcoin art. But he posted fairly recently, maybe yesterday, a breakdown of all the ordinals and JPEGs online and stuff, all the projects involved with that. And one after the other, man, they've rug pulled, they've gone to zero, they're just garbage. So, um, and ultimately, I think that the free market can, even as that stuff occurs as well, and I don't like it, but even as those games are played, I think they show themselves for what they are over time. And TikTok next block, I guess. So yeah, it's some spicy stuff though. I just try to stay out of um, the ad hominem debates, or I see it get toxic at times, and I don't like the toxicity. Um,
Yeah.
I will bring
No.
people to your X. You can be found on X. Again, your handle Gen Z BTC. Satoshi Guapamoto. I think of it as you're guapo, handsome. Now, guap is a slang for money as well, right?
Yes, that was my logic, right? Because Bitcoiners have a lot of guap. They have a lot of money. They
Guap.
have real money, So I'm Satoshi Guapamoto, right? Part of my stage name, right? So just something pretty funny. But again, another iconic, Satoshi Guapamoto. How do you forget that? Gen Z BTC. Someone's gonna try to buy that handle from me at some point. Someone already has, but
Oh,
eventually I'll sell it for a full Bitcoin, bare minimum.
one Bitcoin, and you can have the handle Gen Z BTC. um, now, as you orange pill people, now I know you focus on Gen Z and education. A lot of your audience and a lot of Bitcoiners are of an older generation, Gen X, millennials, and older. Um, you're really trying to still tap into Gen Z, get Gen Z connected, more eyeballs from Gen Z thinking and learning about this stuff. Uh, what are the strategies perhaps to connect with the youth, to resonate with that mindset versus people older age, my age, who maybe are already thinking about retirement, savings, investing, and stuff, where the mindset's there. When I was in my 20s, I was not really thinking much about investing. It was just like work, get my house, like the game of life thing. Um, it's hard to maybe tap into the attention span of Gen Z and what you're competing with in the world of everything. What approach or energy do you take to do that well?
Yeah, most of my audience is millennials and Gen Xers,
Mhm.
interestingly enough. But it is kind of hard to get Gen Zers focused on anything for any amount of time. And Bitcoin does require focus. It requires your own curiosity, and nobody can do the work for you, right? They're very focused on like instant gratification, something that is simple, easy to understand, very fast, very now, now, now. And
Mm.
that's part of the problem with Bitcoin. In a way, right? It's really a problem with the generation, not with Bitcoin. But the truth is, Bitcoin cannot be understood unless you take the time to try to understand it, right? You need to actually devote bare minimum. You need to devote probably like 48 hours worth of true studying total, right? You don't need 1,000 hours, right? But over the course of like 2 weeks, you need to dedicate 48 hours worth of grinding to try to understand Bitcoin. That should leave you with a solid foundation. In 48 hours, you can cover a lot of ground. right? You can read the white
Hmm.
paper, you can watch a lot of YouTube videos, you can read at least one Bitcoin book. All right, you could read Broken Money, you could read The Price of Tomorrow, you could read Bitcoin is for Everyone, you could read The Bitcoin Standard, you could read The Big Print. You could read anything. You can read one book within that time. Um, and that's the only way that this works, right? That's the only way people understand it. Gen Zers are more focused on, okay, how can I get a lot of value immediately, right? How can I? That's why they love gambling so much, right? They figure, oh, well, you know what? My future's so uncertain. There's nothing guaranteed. The only way I'm going to make it is if I can gamble, create a 10-leg parlay, and have that hit, and then I'll be financially free. There's no other option for me. And that's why
Right.
there's a gambling epidemic, right? That's why gambling is sports are no longer about sports. It's really just like gambling, and then there's sports on the side, right? So
Mm.
if you
Hmm.
watch any sports broadcast of any kind, it's mostly just gambling, maybe a couple beer commercials, but it's mostly gambling. Like it's actually
Crazy.
just gambling, like the whole time. It's
Yeah.
kind of upsetting. Don't get me wrong, like I kind of enjoy gambling myself.
Yeah. You
But
get that hit, that reward, that feeling. Yeah.
like during bear markets, there's no like if you are a serious person and you understand Bitcoin, if you're gambling during a bear market, you're actually not a serious person. You do not care about your life, really. Like what are we doing? It's
Hmm.
time to lock in. You can gamble during the bull market, right? You can like you can gamble during the bull market because now the amount of satoshis you can purchase per dollar is reduced, right? The only way that you can keep up your buying rate is if you do go gamble so you can get some more money to buy some more Bitcoin. But gambling during a bear market, just it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You need to just double down. You cannot be taking unnecessary risk. You just need to stay focused, right? Keep your eye on the prize, and just dial in. But anyways, if it were
Yeah.
easy to get people to understand Bitcoin or easy to explain it to them and get them hooked, they wouldn't be able to build their own hard conviction, right? Conviction is only built through studying it yourself, thinking that perhaps you could have been wrong, and then proving yourself to be correct after you hold through very, very brutal drawdowns. This is why bear markets are so important. This is why videos being made during bear markets are so important. These are the real ones, right? These are the people
Hmm.
who really understand what's going on. We really understand Bitcoin, right? There is no wavering of your conviction once you've gone through a bear market or two. You just understand that's part of the game.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll always be part of the game. No one can really say for sure. But bear markets build conviction, and you can only truly understand Bitcoin if you study it yourself and you educate yourself. You put all of your bets on yourself after you take your time to educate yourself. No one can do the work for you.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Put proof of work into yourself. And, younger folks can be more willing to take risks, maybe don't have a long time preference. Sometimes they're thinking about, yeah, they need that more immediate reward. And that can be harder to tap into when you're looking at something that's something about the future and fundamentals on time preference and what money is. You can't force orange pilling. You've made a point. It's like um, Bitcoin conviction and understanding. There has to be an intrinsic element to it where people might be curious, or you come at them too hard and you try to force orange pilling on them, and they might kind of shy away like it's too much or whatever. There has to be a component of what resonates with them. Where are they at? What do they need? What do they see as? It may not be like that they're looking for a solution because they're maybe they're doomer, but you could tap into like the nature of uh, fiat money, the dollar. What is wrong in the world, and why is that? So you could try to. People often pin it on politics or the wealthy or the wars and different things, all of which are problems. They're real, sure, but then what are the root causes of that? Why is this happening? What is this system generally? And you can also then get to, well, what then would be the solution? So you can tap into people understanding, oh, this stuff, that, and the other are broken. You can get to, well, the money is broken. Uh, what's the escape hatch? When I was in my well, yeah, 20s, 30s. I was before Bitcoin, I was pretty kind of black pilled, honestly, maybe a gold bug, but there was no escape hatch that was really clear or useful. There was no light at the end of the tunnel at times. I just thought, well, this is what it is. I'll just keep grinding and try to hustle. And Bitcoin opened up a door for me when it resonated for me. It was that solution, that fix, and it captured me because I was so kind of black pilled that Bitcoin was like hope and a vision of a good future and a way that I could directly engage with a solution. So maybe that's for Gen Z, that may resonate for them as well. If it's easy to, you go to public school or you're in college or you're looking at job options and you feel like it's all a grind and I'm starting from behind and I can't catch up. Maybe connecting with the fix to doomerism is a good approach, perhaps.
No, yeah, that's solid. Perhaps that'll be a video in the near future, right? Bitcoin kills doomerism. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, I would say that that is kind of how I felt as well. It's almost like you kind of can't really remember what your life was like before Bitcoin. It's like, what was I doing? You know what I mean? But like afterwards, everything just seems a lot clearer, and it's because your vision for the future is much more optimistic, right? So everything is feels like it's more structured and part of a plan once you understand Bitcoin, how it works, and what it's going to do. So I would definitely say Bitcoin is hope, and it
Yeah.
definitely is a positive symbol, especially once you understand it and start using it in your day-to-day life as best as you can.
Uh, Matt O'Hoddle, shout out to Matt. Yeah, Bitcoin. Bitcoin's why we're here. Bitcoin changed my life. Bitcoin's going to change the lives of Gen Z and the mindset about it. Nikki Orange Peel Pod, she talks about, for one thing, being in college and there's kids. I mean, I've got a kid in college now who it's hard for him to grapple with the prospects of what direction do I go? Where do I put my time and energy? The jobs available, and then there's AI out there. It's going to take all the jobs. Having a mindset of these are opportunities to not be stuck and trapped in maybe hierarchical prescribed modes of like, well, just keep grinding, stick to it, get your pension, you'll get your social security. you know um, you these guarantees are now fleeting. You have to make your own. And for a kid with the energy and intelligence and curiosity, I think you can tap into, okay, so we've got Bitcoin. Yes, there's AI. Yes, you see these fiat games and all these things. These are opportunities, actually. Reframe reframe the game from being, oh, the world's changing so quickly, I got to keep up with it. We're presented with these amazing opportunities to take advantage and learn, um, not just Bitcoin, but AI as well. So I, yeah, I think I'm just very excited and hopeful for the future. I want to be respectful of your time. I loved having you on here. I'm going to direct people to all the places they can find you here on X. You are, like I mentioned, on X, Gen Z BTC. Great feed here. I invited you on because I was following you online, seeing what you were doing. I saw that you spoke at BTC in DC. Uh, Follow Satoshi Guapamoto here on X, and your YouTube at Gen Z BTC. And heck, perhaps we'll get to see you at a future conference. Maybe you'll get to be on a panel or on stage again at some point. Look forward to more content. And other than YouTube work, where do you see your future going with everything you're doing right now? I know you got a daytime logistics, transportation, freighting work. We have our fiat jobs, and you've converted that into Bitcoin job work and becoming reframing a fiat job into a Bitcoin job. What do you see in your future, briefly, before we wrap up?
Yeah, to really briefly touch on the AI stuff, it is going to be a really strange economy as AI becomes better at just like doing everything, right? It's actually doesn't make sense to hire people to do a lot of stuff. And Bitcoin is going to help those people to live lives of abundance. But if you don't do that, then you're just going to be unemployed and you're not going to have any money. So it's going to be kind of strange. It could be, no one can really tell for sure, but the AI is coming. So you could either use that to your advantage or it will be your detriment. I definitely need to start understanding AI systems way more, and I need to start utilizing them for sure. And then in terms of my day job, right, I am a logistics salesperson. I'm a logistics provider, right? If people need things picked up, I schedule trucks, I make paperwork, and I do billing and stuff like that. And some of my clients are Bitcoin companies, publicly traded, privately owned Bitcoin miners. Typically, the miners go to repair facilities or they are deploying miners to a new site so that way they can energize these new sites that they acquire, stuff like that. So that is essentially where I'm at in terms of my day job, right? I'm the Bitcoin guy at work. You know, people literally call me Mr. Bitcoin. I did not give myself that name, right? But you know, they know me as
Embrace
that.
it.
Yes, you have to embrace it. You have to be the Bitcoin guy, and everybody knows that I am the Bitcoin guy. And I've turned my fiat job into a Bitcoin job as best as I can, right? By integrating myself and my work into the Bitcoin space. So I find that to be really interesting. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it a lot. In terms of where I see the near future, it's hard to say, right? But there's opportunity to perhaps work with the Bitcoin Policy Institute in DC. There's opportunity to just double down and continue working with more and more Bitcoin companies at my current location and my current job. There's I haven't really looked into it, but perhaps I could even end up working for a treasury company somehow. I have no background in finance, so probably not, right? Like I'm not a quant, but maybe I could try starting to teach myself. Perhaps I could do something in marketing. I don't know, right? I have a
Mhm.
sales background. Perhaps something there could happen. So there's always something going on in Bitcoin land. And during a
Yeah.
bull market, there's going to be a lot more Bitcoin job opportunities. That's for
Mm.
sure. Right. So, who really can say? But
Yeah.
all I can say for sure is that I will continue to dollar cost average every single day. That's not going to change. It doesn't matter if it's the all-time low or the all-time high. I'm buying every single day. It's automated, so I don't have to think about it. And
Awesome.
I personally believe that we go lower from here. This
Mm.
is against all odds. My take is actually bearish. Most people calling the bottom right here. They are
Mm.
probably correct, right? Around the 60K level is the bottom. But I'm really, really banking and looking at the, high 40s, low 50s as the
Mm.
level to watch.
Mm.
The reason being, this is my thesis. If you
Yeah.
look at all previous drawdowns, this being the bottom is just too shallow, right? This is only a 55-ish% drawdown compared to the previous drawdown of around 77%. Before that, I believe it was like 83, and before that, it was like 87, right? So I think
Mm.
that 53 is too shallow of a drawdown. I believe around that 70s, 65% maybe is more realistic. And at those levels, we see 50K Bitcoin, 47K around that area Bitcoin. That makes sense to
Woo.
me. I know. So bear markets are fun to the people who really understand Bitcoin and who
Right.
understand the value that's being created.
Hmm.
And if you're scared during a bear market, you do not know what you own, or you are way too over leveraged, my friend.
That's right. And I think the money printer's going to get hot here as we go forward. If we're not if we're not at a bottom, I think we're getting close-ish. I agree, or I should say I don't disagree. We could very well see, some lower lows right now. Time will tell, but I think, in perspective, it's not it's all healthy for Bitcoin, these bear markets, and as we get to that low, and then whether it's this year or early next year or something. I think the government's got to pay for its things. They don't want a revolution. They don't want a financial collapse. They got to pay for all the stuff they're doing and maintain some liquidity somehow. We'll see what the Fed chair, how he speaks and what they actually do. But that money printer is going to turn on here at some point as well. And we're going to, the upward volatility is what's crazy. So I'm excited about it all. And if it goes lower, I'm not crying. I'm kind of like, ooh, it's more of a window for anyone getting on and getting started or continuing to DCA or get in on it. What a great opportunity in a time we're in right now to do so. And then later, people are going to feel like they're going to get excited when it's a new high, or they're going to feel like they got left behind. It's like we're all so early. So super bullish. I'm really excited to hear it. So yeah, and also it's great branding for a company in your work or any line of work. Life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. But when you're in Bitcoin and you have any kind of company and you're branding yourself as, like, say, the Bitcoin guy, and you know how to navigate Bitcoin, it can be something for trust from others when they're looking at, say, like logistics, freighting, stuff like that. Um, when you're looking at options out there and someone's a Bitcoiner and understands that ethos and has shares a philosophy around Bitcoin, there's a trust there in who you might choose to uh, employ or contract with or work with, partner with, and move forward with. And then the opportunities just abound as well. So you just never know what direction this could all go. So the Bitcoin branding is great for a lot of businesses, I think, and especially in the future. So Gen Z, it's been great having you on. I really appreciate the time you've given me. This has been fun. Anything that I didn't touch on that you want to make sure we get out there before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered everything. Just want to
Awesome.
leave on the note that I am a strategy maxi. Strategy will do amazing. Make sure that you hold me to this, right? Let's not forget, there's a lot of haters. I'm not a hater. Strategy maxi. They're gonna do
Awesome.
amazing. Strive Asset Management, same thing. Here, I'm gonna show you something really iconic if I can find it.
Yeah.
Um, I met with these guys over in DC, and they gave me this very cool token. These guys are on the board of directors. I met some of the board of directors for Strive. Um, and let's see if we can get that to focus.
Oh,
It's just this
wow.
cool little metallic coin
Challenge coin.
with the yeah, with
Oh,
the
wow.
Strive
Huh.
logo and everything on the back. So this was a pretty cool one. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, no, I love this little thing. But besides the
Awesome.
little coin that they gave me, I got to talk to them about their company and stuff like that. Strive is going to absolutely kill it as well. So on the equity side, I can't say much about all the other treasury companies. Perhaps some of them will be fine. Some of them will probably go to zero. But Strive and Strategy are going to make it. Bitcoin and cold storage is the innovation, right? BIP 110 will activate even with such a small amount of people who are signaling for it. It will activate. And
Hmm.
Bitcoin will bottom out around the mid to low 50s. And by 2 years from now, they'll be calling us so lucky when Bitcoin is at 200K, right? So
Oh, you
that's
got
my,
lucky.
yes, that's my, those are my final closing statements. And also 200K in 2 years is extremely bearish. I know.
Right. I agree. Those are great hot takes. I love hearing it, just hammering all this amazing positive strong conviction there. I love hearing it. I'm really excited. I hope it all comes true, and I believe it will. So um, I love it. This has been amazing. Thanks for joining me. I love the challenge coin, and uh, golden light is ahead of us. I think we're entering a new era of humanity that's just onwards and upwards. The future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. And when they tell you you're lucky, you'll remember all the pain or patience or work that you put into it when you had to stop and evaluate the landscape and your conviction. And that, self work is not easy, but we're doing it. And so these bear markets have been opportunities to really lean in and do that. And then I think all the validation is going to be coming down the road. It'll be like, yes, this feels good now, or it's easier to feel good about it. But even right now, I feel good about it because the opportunity is right here, right now as well. So super exciting. With that, I will wrap it up. Thanks for joining me. Loved having you, man. And we will see you online. I look forward to the content you're going to release in the future and all the bullish things you're saying. I can't wait to see it happen. Thanks for joining me,
Yeah.
man.
Thank you so much for having me. And everyone, remember, stack sats or die trying.
Stack sets or die trying, everybody. Good words to live by. Cool. Bye.